So now we know a bit about Marvelous Designer itself, and I've also introduced you to the custom avatars and also how to import your own avatars and blend shapes. I think it's about time we dived in and started to build a dress for our character. So as we do this, I'll be introducing you to the various tools that we'll be using to create the patterns, to create curves and editing and all that sort of thing. So it will be more of a step-by-step process. So, as we've already seen, in this side we have our character view. Over here we have the view where our garment will be created and all the patterns will be laid out. As you can also see, we have a nice silhouette of the character, so we can pretty much work on top of that as we start building. So, just a quick note. Right click will rotate around the character, middle mouse button will pan the camera, and the middle mouse button scroll will zoom in and out. Just so you know, it's a bit different to some other applications I'm used to using. And the same applies in here, middle mouse button to pan around and zoom in and out. So we have a grid in here which will help us to work, but before we start building any patterns, I think it's important to right click, which brings up this context sensitive menu, and enable snap to grid. So what will happen now is as we're putting down the points for our patterns, they will snap to the grid and we will have exact sizes, which is what we want. We don't want varying lengths of edges and things like that. And you'll see why as we progress on. So up here we have our main tools which we're going to use. So we have an edit pattern tool, transform pattern tool. So basically, well, we'll see these in action shortly. These are to add in and edit curves and create new points. And then these are just basic shapes to start you off. So in this video, we're going to start building her bodice, which will cover her upper body. So let's just dive in and start creating. So we're going to use the polygon tool. Let's zoom in and we're going to build one half first, so the left hand side first. And let's start off with something like, let's just block in, and as you can see as I'm moving around, it's not snapping to the grid, it's also, well, it's not snapping and staying rigidly at the grid, but it is snapping to points within the grid as well, so it's quite handy to have that. So let's just create, actually I'm going to start that again. Let's start off in the dead center, somewhere about here, so if her chest is about there. So let's just create a triangle, which will be sort of the upper part, and then we want to add in a strap, which is going to go over her shoulder. Let's bring this down to here, then we'll extend this part down maybe 2 grid squares, and there we have our first pattern. Simple as that. And if I click sync now, you'll see it appears in this window here. Now we're not going to simulate it yet, because all that will happen is that will just drop down to the floor. What we are going to do is we've got the front pattern, so now let's build the pattern which is going to attach to the back. And that's pretty much going to be the same as this. So what we could actually do is press Ctrl C to copy this pattern, and then press Ctrl R, and that's going to paste it but also reverse it. So let's put that there. So now the front and the back, and as you see, because we've got sync enabled, they're both here, but they're both the same. So what we can do now is just, with our edit pattern button enabled, this allows us to edit the points and the edges. If we have transform pattern enabled, you'll see we'll just be selecting the whole pattern. Now we can press Shift and select 2, and then you can scale those globally and rotate them using this point here. But we're not going to do that now, so let's go up to our point, and I'm just going to right click, delete point. So that's flattened off that back area there. So we have the front, we have a basic back. Let's just create a couple more pieces to add down to the bottom here. And again, these are probably going to be, we'll just cancel that. Now if you notice there, that's another way of creating a point, creating a basic pattern. If you click and drag, you can define the size you want. If we undo that, if you just click once, it brings up a box and you can specify the exact size that you need. For us, we want more of a freehand approach to this, so let's just create another point like that. And here's where we have to start thinking about the lengths of edges. If this is going to attach here, this area is longer than this. So let's just select that edge there. And if you notice, I'm holding down Shift. And that's going to allow me to snap to these orientations here. So you'll either snap horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. So that just helps if you're moving a particular point or an edge and you want to stay on a particular angle or orientation. So let's just move that in. And what you'll also notice is as you're moving that, there are various numbers on the edges, and that tells you how long each edge is. So there, the top edge up here, well, that was 129 point something. You can also click on an edge, and in the property editor here you can see exactly how long it is. So that's just a quick way of finding out. So we can already see here that those edges are different. That's 130, that's 129. Now it doesn't really matter in these early stages, because when these are sewn together you may just get a little bit of pinching. So what we could do is maybe just disable snap to grid and just see if we can nudge that over. Oh, I can see what's happened. This edge is a bit far over here. Let's go back to snap to grid. See if we can move those points over. Or another way, if you want it exactly right, we could always just press Ctrl C copy, Ctrl V paste, move this down, and then we know that edge there is exactly the same. And then we can go in and delete these internal points, like so. And there, that was a much quicker way of doing it. Now we know this size is the same as this size, so we can again Control C, or you can right click, copy, right click, paste, and then holding down Shift, we're snapping to that grid there so that they're all aligned perfectly. And again, they're syncing up in here too. Now, two more pieces. I'm just going to add in an extra element in the middle here and in the middle down here. And that is because these straps are going to go over the shoulder, so we need to create a hole here for the arm to go in. But again, we can just go copy, paste, move that over like that, and then select that edge, and then we'll make that smaller, maybe 30. Copy, paste, move this up there. And again, let's just move some of these a bit closer. So there we have one side of the bodice. So it's just a basic pattern up to now. So what we want to do now is create the opposite side, but we can do that quite easily, as you've already seen. Press Ctrl C, Ctrl R, then holding down Shift, constrain that to move it over. And what we'll do is we'll just move that just so there's a gap in between the two. And then we'll move that over like so. So there we have the front patterns there. These are the side patterns, and then we have these rear patterns here. Now they're not complete, and once we start simulating this, we'll probably find that some areas are too big, some areas are too small, some are too baggy, and we will need to start tweaking these as we go. So what we'll do now is we'll take a break here, and then we'll look at simulating these patterns in the next video.